The after-party photo was supposed to stay buried forever. 3 weeks before my wedding to Carter, I thought I had everything under control. The hotel hallway kiss with Theo was just a moment of weakness, a final thrill before settling into married life. But when my own bridesmaid sent that photo to my fiancé, everything I'd built came crashing down in the most humiliating way possible. Let me start from the beginning, when I still believed I was untouchable. My name is Linnet Virelle, and at 31, I work as a hospital scheduler in downtown Portland. It's not glamorous, but it pays well enough to afford the wedding of my dreams with Carter Rowe, a 33-year-old IT consultant who flies drones as a hobby. Carter is methodical, quiet, and completely devoted to me, or at least he was. The bachelorette party was supposed to be innocent fun. My maid of honor, Madeline Zhang, everyone calls her Mads, had booked us a suite at the downtown Marriott. The plan was dinner, drinks, and dancing with my bridesmaids, Sasha, Harper, and Jolene. What I hadn't planned on was Theo Delancey showing up. Theo wasn't just any groomsman. He was our wedding planner, a charming 35-year-old who'd been handling all our vendor deposits and venue coordination. Over the past 5 months of planning, our professional relationship had developed into something more flirtatious. Email threads about late-night details and after-hours coordination had become increasingly suggestive, but I told myself it was harmless. That Saturday night in March, around 11 p.m., Theo texted me. "Heard you ladies are celebrating downstairs. Mind if I crash the party?" I should have said no. Instead, I found myself typing back, "Suite 847, bring champagne." Mads gave me a look when Theo arrived with 2 bottles of Dom Perignon. "Linnet, what's he doing here?" "Relax," I laughed, already feeling the wine from dinner. "He's practically part of the wedding party anyway. Besides, Carter's probably passed out playing video games." The night spiraled from there. More drinks, more laughter, more lingering glances between Theo and me. By 2 a.m., Sasha and Harper had crashed on the suite's couches. Jolene was FaceTiming her boyfriend from the bathroom. Mads kept checking her phone nervously. "You okay?" I asked her, swaying slightly. "Maybe we should call it a night," she suggested. "It's getting late, and you have that dress fitting Monday." But Theo was telling stories about wedding disasters he'd witnessed, and I was hanging on every word. When he suggested we grab ice from the machine down the hall, I followed without thinking. The hotel corridor was dimly lit and empty. We were standing by the ice machine when Theo turned to me, his expression serious. "You know this is crazy, right?" he said softly. "What's crazy?" I whispered back, though I knew exactly what he meant. "This thing between us, the emails, the looks, the way you light up when I walk into a room." My heart was pounding. "Theo, I'm getting married in 3 weeks." "I know." He stepped closer. "That's what makes this so impossible." I should have walked away. Instead, I found myself saying, "Maybe impossible is what makes it exciting." He kissed me then, pressing me against the wall next to the ice machine. It was passionate and desperate, and everything my relationship with Carter wasn't. For those few minutes, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in months. What I didn't see was Mad stepping into the hallway, phone in hand. The camera flash was subtle, just a quick burst of light that I barely registered. By the time we broke apart, breathless and guilty, Mads was already walking back toward the suite. "Did you see—" I started to ask Theo. "See what?" I shook my head. "Nothing. We should get back." The timestamp on that photo, I would later learn, was 3:47 a.m. The location metadata was precise down to the GPS coordinates. The EXIF data would prove the image was unaltered, authentic, and damning. But in that moment, walking back to the suite with Theo's cologne still lingering on my dress, I felt invincible. I was getting married to a stable, loving man who would never suspect his bride-to-be of such betrayal. I had successfully compartmentalized my desires, keeping my real life separate from this one moment of indulgence. Mads was sitting on the edge of the bed when we returned, her face pale. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She nodded quickly, but wouldn't meet my eyes. "Just tired. I think I should head home." "Don't be silly," I protested. "Stay the night. We got this suite for a reason." "No, I really should go." She was already gathering her purse and jacket. "I'll call you tomorrow." After she left, I helped Theo clean up the champagne glasses while the other girls slept. He kept brushing against me, whispering about how incredible that kiss had been, but I was starting to feel the weight of what we'd done. "This can't happen again," I told him as he prepared to leave. "I know," he agreed, "but I'm glad it happened once." After he left, I sat in the bathroom deleting text messages and trying to convince myself that what happened in that hallway was just a momentary lapse in judgment, a final wild moment before settling into married life. Carter would never know, and what he didn't know couldn't hurt him. I fell asleep on the suite's king bed next to Sasha, dreaming about white dresses and wedding bells, completely unaware that my phone was already buzzing with a text from Mads. "We need to talk about what happened last night." Sunday morning hit me like a freight train. I woke up in the hotel suite with a splitting headache and the immediate crushing realization of what I'd done. Sasha and Harper were already gone, leaving only a note about grabbing coffee downstairs. Jolene was in the shower, humming wedding songs with cruel irony. My phone showed 17 missed messages, but only one that made my blood run cold. "We need to talk about what happened last night. Call me." Mads. I tried calling her 3 times. Each call went straight to voicemail. By the time I made it home to the apartment I shared with Carter, my anxiety was through the roof. He was in his home office, surrounded by his drone equipment and computer monitors, working on some freelance project. "Hey, beautiful," he called out when he heard me come in. "How was the bachelorette party?" I tried calling around midnight, but it went straight to voicemail. "Oh, you know how those things go," I said, forcing a bright smile. Too loud to hear the phone. "We had a great time, though. Very innocent." The lie tasted bitter in my mouth. Carter emerged from his office and kissed my forehead. "Good. I'm glad you had fun. Your mum called this morning about the final head count for the reception. I told her you'd call her back." "Sure, of course." I was barely listening, my mind racing through damage control scenarios. "I'm going to take a shower and then maybe we could grab brunch." "Sounds perfect. I love you, Lynn." "Love you too," I replied automatically, hating myself for how easily the words came. In the shower, I scrubbed my skin raw, trying to wash away the memory of Theo's hands, his lips, the way he'd looked at me in that hallway. But guilt isn't something you can rinse off with hot water and expensive soap. I spent the rest of Sunday trying to reach Mads while pretending everything was normal with Carter. We went to brunch at our favorite cafe, discussed final wedding details, and even stopped by the venue to drop off some decorations. The whole time, I felt like I was acting in a play where I'd forgotten my lines. Monday morning at the hospital was torture. I couldn't concentrate on scheduling appointments or coordinating with doctors. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, expecting either Mads or Theo to blow up my carefully constructed world. Finally, around lunch, Mads called. "Linnet, we need to meet. Today." "Of course. I've been trying to reach you. Is everything okay?" There was a long pause. "No, everything is not okay. Can you meet me at Morrison Coffee at 3? "Mads, you're scaring me. What's wrong?" "You know what's wrong." Her voice was quiet but firm. 3 o'clock, Linnet. Don't be late." The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. Mads was sitting in a corner booth, her laptop open, looking like she hadn't slept. When she saw me, her expression was a mixture of sadness and determination that made my stomach clench. "Thank you for coming," she said as I slid into the booth across from her. "Mads, whatever you're thinking about Saturday night." "I have a photo, Linnet." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" She turned her laptop screen toward me. There it was, me and Theo in the hotel hallway, his hands on my waist. my arms around his neck, kissing with obvious passion. The timestamp in the corner read 3:47 a.m. The image quality was crystal clear. Oh, God. The coffee shop seemed to spin around me. Mads, I can explain. Can you? Her voice was steady, but I could see tears in her eyes. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you cheated on Carter 3 weeks before your wedding. It wasn't like that. It was just a moment of weakness, a stupid mistake. It meant nothing. Nothing? Mads leaned forward. Linnet, I've been watching you flirt with Theo for months. The way you light up when he texts. How you always find excuses to meet with him about wedding planning. This wasn't some random moment of weakness. I felt panic rising in my chest. What do you want from me? I want you to tell Carter. Absolutely not. The response was immediate and fierce. Mads, you're my best friend. You can't destroy my life over one stupid kiss. I'm not destroying your life. You already did that. She closed the laptop. But I can't live with this secret. Carter deserves to know who he's marrying. Please. I reached across the table, grabbing her hands. Please don't do this. It was one kiss, one moment. Carter never has to know, and it will never happen again. I swear on our friendship. Mads pulled her hands away. Our friendship? Linnet, you put me in an impossible position. You made me a witness to your betrayal, and now you want me to be an accomplice to your lie. I'm not asking you to lie. I'm asking you to keep one private moment private. Private? She laughed bitterly. You kissed another man in a hotel hallway at 3 a.m. That's not private, that's reckless, and stupid, and cruel to Carter. We sat in silence for a long moment. I could hear the espresso machine hissing, conversations from other tables, the normal sounds of life continuing while mine fell apart. Give me the photo, I said finally. No. Mads, please, delete it. Pretend it never happened. I can't do that. Why not? What good does it do anyone for Carter to see this? Because he deserves the truth. Her voice rose, causing other customers to look our way. She lowered it again. Because he's a good man who's about to marry someone who's already betraying him. Because if you can do this 3 weeks before your wedding, what happens 3 years into your marriage? That's not fair, isn't it? Mads packed up her laptop. You have until Wednesday to tell him, Linnet. If you don't, I will. She stood to leave, then turned back one more time. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I wish I'd never seen it. I wish you'd never done it. But I can't unknow what I know. After she left, I sat in that coffee shop for 2 hours, staring at my untouched latte and trying to figure out how to save my life. I considered confessing to Carter, spinning it as a moment of pre-wedding jitters. I thought about calling Theo and begging him to talk to Mads. I even considered cancelling the wedding myself and running away to start over somewhere else. But in the end, I chose the most dangerous option of all. I decided to do nothing and hope the problem would disappear. That night, Carter was working late on a project involving aerial reconnaissance software for a local surveying company. His drone hobby had evolved into legitimate freelance work, and he was particularly excited about a new program that could analyze GPS metadata and cross-reference location data. It's incredible what you can determine from digital evidence these days, he told me over dinner. Photos, videos, even text messages, they all leave digital fingerprints that tell a complete story. I nearly choked on my pasta. That's interesting. The technology is amazing. You can track someone's exact location, the time they were there, even whether an image has been altered or is authentic. It's revolutionizing investigations. Why would anyone need to investigate photos? I asked, trying to sound casual. Carter shrugged. Insurance fraud, legal cases, workplace issues. People think they can delete things or claim images are fake, but the metadata doesn't lie. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Carter slept peacefully beside me. Every few hours, I'd check my phone, expecting to see a message from Mads or Theo, or even Carter himself. But there was nothing. Tuesday passed in a blur of wedding preparations and mounting anxiety. The florist called to confirm the arrangements. The caterer needed final numbers. My mother wanted to discuss the seating chart. Everyone was so excited about the upcoming celebration, completely unaware that the bride was falling apart. Wednesday morning, I woke up hoping Mads had changed her mind. Maybe she'd realized that destroying my engagement wouldn't help anyone. Maybe she'd decided that friendship was more important than moral righteousness. I was wrong. The email arrived at 2:47 p.m., sent to both Carter and me. "I'm sorry, but you both deserve the truth." Attached was the photo, along with a detailed explanation of when and where it was taken. My hands were shaking as I called Carter immediately. "Did you get Mads's email?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm looking at it now," he said quietly. His voice was different, controlled, analytical, cold. "Carter, I can explain everything." "Can you?" There was a long pause. "Come home, Linnet. We need to talk." The drive home felt like driving to my own execution. I kept rehearsing explanations, apologies, justifications. But deep down, I knew that the photo told a story no words could rewrite. Carter was waiting for me in the living room, his laptop open on the coffee table. When I walked in, he looked up at me with eyes I didn't recognize. Hurt, yes, but also something calculating and cold. "Sit down," he said. "Carter, before you say anything." "Sit. Down." I sat. He turned his laptop screen toward me. The photo was there, but now it was surrounded by technical data I didn't understand. Timestamps, GPS coordinates, metadata analysis. This image was taken at 3:47 a.m. on Saturday, March 15th, at the Marriott downtown, he said in a voice devoid of emotion. "The XIF data confirms it's unaltered and authentic. The location is precise to within 3 feet. How do you know all that?" "Because, Linnet, analyzing digital evidence is literally what I do for a living." My heart sank as I realized the full scope of my miscalculation. I'd cheated on a man whose expertise was uncovering digital deception. "But that's not all," Carter continued, clicking to another screen. "I've been busy since I got Mads's email. Would you like to see what else I found?" Carter's fingers moved across the keyboard with terrifying efficiency. Screen after screen of evidence appeared on his laptop, each one another nail in the coffin of our relationship. "Let's start with the hotel Wi-Fi logs," he said, his voice clinically detached. "I have a contact at the surveying company who helped me submit a preliminary subpoena request. Your phone connected to the Marriott's network at 11:23 p.m. and remained connected until 5:15 a.m. I stared at the data, my mouth dry. How is that even legal? It's all public record once you accept the terms of service. But let's continue. He clicked to another window. Theo's rideshare history was easier to access. He uses the same password for everything, and he left his email logged in on the venue's computer last week. A Uber receipt filled the screen. Pickup location: Theo's apartment. Drop-off location: Marriott downtown, 11:47 p.m. Return pickup: same hotel, 4:52 a.m. So he arrived 24 minutes after you connected to the Wi-Fi and left an hour after your encounter in the hallway. "Carter, please. I'm not finished." His calm was more terrifying than any shouting would have been. "Let's look at your email correspondence with our wedding planner." My stomach dropped as he opened what looked like months of email exchanges between Theo and me. Messages I thought were private, flirtatious exchanges about late-night coordination and special arrangements. January 15th. Working late tonight on your special day. Wish you were here to help with the details. Your response: I wish I was there too. Carter's asleep by 9 most nights. Those were about wedding planning. February 3rd, dreaming about your big day and your big night. Your response: some dreams are better than reality, but maybe not all of them. Each email was like a slap in the face. Taken individually, they could be interpreted as innocent. Together, they painted a clear picture of an emotional affair that had been building for months. March 8th, 1 week before your bachelorette party. Can't wait to celebrate with you soon. Just the two of us, finally. Your response: Saturday can't come fast enough. I need some excitement in my life. Carter, stop, please. But he wasn't stopping. He clicked to another folder labeled Witnesses. After I received Mad's email, I contacted your other bridesmaids. Separately, of course. I told them I was concerned about your behavior at the party and asked if they'd noticed anything unusual. 3 email threads appeared on the screen. Sasha, Harper, and Jolene had all responded to Carter's inquiries. Sasha: I did think it was weird that Theo showed up. Linnet seemed really excited about it, more than she should have been. They were definitely flirting all night. Harper: When they went to get ice, they were gone for like 20 minutes. Mads was upset about something when they came back. I figured it was just drama. Jolene: Honestly, I've been wondering about Linnet and Theo for months. The way she talks about him, how much time they spend together, planning. I thought maybe I was imagining things. So you see, Carter said, closing the laptop, this wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a pattern of deception that culminated in you cheating on me 3 weeks before our wedding. I felt like I was drowning. What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me the truth, all of it. For a moment, I considered coming clean completely, telling him about the months of flirtation, the growing attraction, the way Theo made me feel desired in a way Carter never had. But looking at his cold, analytical expression, I realized the truth would only make things worse. It was a mistake, I said instead, a stupid, drunken mistake that meant nothing. Nothing? Carter's composure cracked slightly. You've been emotionally cheating on me for months, and then you physically cheated on me at your bachelorette party. 3 weeks before our wedding. And it meant nothing. I love you, Carter. I want to marry you. Do you? He leaned back, studying me like I was a problem to be solved. Because your actions suggest otherwise. People make mistakes. We can work through this. Couples therapy, counseling, whatever you want. Therapy? He laughed bitterly. Linnet, you didn't accidentally trip and fall on another man's lips. You orchestrated this. You invited him to your bachelorette party, you followed him into that hallway, and you kissed him. Passionately. At 3 a.m. How can you be so cold about this? Don't you feel anything? Oh, I feel plenty. His voice was quiet but intense. I feel betrayed. I feel humiliated. I feel like an idiot for not seeing what was happening right in front of me. But most of all, I feel like I don't know who you are. We sat in silence for several minutes. I kept waiting for him to break down, to show some emotion I could work with, but Carter just sat there, calculating. What happens now? I finally asked. Now I need to think. He closed the laptop and stood up. I'm going to stay at my parents' house tonight. We're having dinner there tomorrow anyway to finalize the wedding details. I suggest you prepare yourself for that conversation. Carter, please don't leave. We can figure this out. Figure what out exactly? How to pretend this never happened? How to trust someone who's been lying to me for months? He grabbed his keys and jacket. I'll see you tomorrow at 7. Don't be late. After he left, I sat in our living room, soon to be just my living room, and tried to process what had just happened. Carter hadn't yelled or thrown things or made dramatic threats. Instead, he'd methodically dismantled my deception with the same analytical precision he brought to his work. I called Theo, desperate to talk to someone who understood the situation. This is a disaster, I told him when he answered. Carter knows everything. He has evidence, emails, witness statements. Slow down, Theo said. What kind of evidence? I explained Carter's digital investigation, the hotel logs, the rideshare receipts, the bridesmaid interviews. Jesus, Linnet, your fiancé is thorough. What are we going to do? We? Theo's voice changed. There is no we in this situation. You're the one getting married. This is your problem. But you're involved too. You kissed me back. You've been flirting with me for months. I'm a single man who was hired to plan your wedding. If anyone asks, I'll say you came on to me and I made a mistake. One mistake, not months of an affair. You're going to throw me under the bus? I'm going to protect my business. I have 6 other weddings booked this season, and if this gets out, I'm finished. The line went dead. I was truly alone. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining the dinner at Carter's parents' house, trying to figure out how to minimize the damage. Maybe I could convince everyone that the photo was misleading, that it was just a friendly kiss that looked worse than it was. Maybe I could paint Theo as a predator who took advantage of my intoxicated state. But deep down, I knew Carter's evidence was too thorough, too comprehensive. He had built an airtight case against me, and tomorrow he was going to present it to both our families. I spent Wednesday morning at work trying to act normal while my world fell apart. My supervisor noticed I was distracted and asked if everything was okay with the wedding preparations. Just pre-wedding jitters, I lied. You know how it is. But I was starting to realize that by Thursday morning, everyone would know exactly how it was. The dress I'd planned to wear to dinner hung in my closet like a funeral shroud. I'd bought it specifically to impress Carter's parents, a conservative navy blue number that said, "Responsible future daughter-in-law." Now it felt like a costume for a role I was no longer qualified to play. As I got ready, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "So excited for dinner tonight. Your father and I have been talking about grandchildren. See you at 7. I almost threw up. At 6:45, I sat in my car outside Carter's parents' house, watching the warm light spilling from their windows. Through the dining room window, I could see both sets of parents laughing together, probably discussing wedding details and sharing embarrassing stories about their children. In 15 minutes, that laughter would stop. In 15 minutes, Carter would destroy not just our relationship, but the friendship between our families, the excitement about the wedding, the dreams of grandchildren and holidays together. And it would all be my fault. I took a deep breath, checked my makeup one last time, and walked toward the front door, knowing I was walking toward my own destruction. The Rowe family home had always felt welcoming to me. Carter's parents, David and Serena, had treated me like a daughter from the moment we got engaged. The dining room was set with their good china, flowers from their garden arranged in crystal vases, everything perfect for what they thought was a celebration of their son's upcoming marriage. Both sets of parents were already seated when I arrived. My mother, Eva, was showing Serena photos on her phone, probably the final dress alterations. My father, Gareth, was deep in conversation with David about something work-related. Everyone looked up with bright smiles when I walked in. "There's our beautiful bride," Eva exclaimed, jumping up to hug me. I was just showing Serena the final head count. 237 guests. Can you believe it? "It's going to be magical," Serena added warmly. "Carter's been so excited all week. He's been working on some kind of surprise for you." My stomach clenched. "A surprise?" "He won't tell us what it is," David chuckled. "You know how he gets with his technical projects. Very secretive." Carter appeared from the kitchen carrying a bottle of wine, looking composed and handsome in a button-down shirt and khakis. To everyone else, he probably seemed like a happy groom-to-be, but I could see the coldness in his eyes, the tight set of his jaw. "Sorry I'm late," I said, accepting his brief kiss on the cheek. His lips felt like ice. "Perfect timing," he replied. "I was just about to show everyone that surprise I've been working on." The parents exchanged excited glances. "Oh, wonderful," my mother clapped. "Is it a video montage? A slideshow?" "Something like that." Carter moved to the living room, where I now noticed his laptop was connected to the large, wall-mounted TV. "If everyone could gather around, I'd like to share some recent discoveries about our relationship." The way he said discoveries made my blood run cold, but the parents were oblivious to the undertone. They settled onto the couches with their wine glasses, chattering excitedly about what romantic surprise Carter had prepared. "Before I begin," Carter said, remote control in hand, "I want everyone to know that what you are about to see was discovered through legal means. All evidence was obtained with proper documentation and witness verification." "Evidence?" David laughed. "Son, you sound like you're presenting a court case." "In a way, I am." Carter clicked the remote. The TV screen filled with a title slide. "The Truth About Linnet and Theo, a Digital Investigation." The room fell silent. My mother's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. "Carter," I whispered, "please don't do this." "Do what?" Eva asked, looking between us. "What's going on?" Carter clicked to the next slide. The hotel hallway photo, blown up to fill the entire wall-mounted screen. Me and Theo, locked in passionate embrace, the timestamp clearly visible, 3:47 a.m. Serena gasped. David set down his wine glass hard enough to slosh liquid onto the coffee table. My father went completely pale. "What the hell is this?" Eva demanded, standing up so quickly she knocked over her chair. "This," Carter said calmly, "is a photograph taken during Linnet's bachelorette party 3 nights ago. As you can see from the timestamp, it was taken at 3:47 a.m. in the hallway of the downtown Marriott Hotel." "There has to be an explanation," Serena said weakly. "This can't be what it looks like." Carter clicked to the next slide, the metadata analysis. "The XIF data confirms this image is unaltered and authentic. The GPS coordinates place it on the 8th floor of the hotel, near the ice machine." "Who is that man?" David's voice was dangerously quiet. "Theo Delancey, our wedding planner, also my groomsman." The room erupted. Eva started shouting at me in a voice I'd never heard before. David was demanding explanations. Serena was crying. My father just sat there, staring at the screen like he couldn't process what he was seeing. "Linnet Virelle," Eva's voice cut through the chaos. "You explain this right now." I looked around the room at 6 faces filled with shock, disappointment, and disgust. "It's not what it looks like." "Really?" Carter's voice was deadly calm. "Then please, enlighten us. What exactly does it look like?" "It was just a kiss, a stupid mistake. I was drunk and... Let's see what else you were drunk and stupid about." Carter clicked to the next slide, months of email correspondence between Theo and me. He began reading selected excerpts aloud, his voice steady and professional, like he was delivering a presentation at work. Each email was more damning than the last, painting a clear picture of an emotional affair that had been building for months. "I wish I was there too. Carter's asleep by 9 most nights," he read. "Some dreams are better than reality, but maybe not all of them. Saturday can't come fast enough. I need some excitement in my life." "Stop," I pleaded. "Please stop." "Oh, but we're just getting started." Carter clicked again. "Let's look at the digital evidence from that night." Hotel Wi-Fi logs appeared on screen, showing my phone's connection times, Theo's rideshare receipts, a timeline that perfectly corroborated the photo. "Your daughter," Carter said, looking directly at my parents, "invited her affair partner to her bachelorette party. They spent over 4 hours together at the hotel, culminating in this photograph." "Affair partner?" Eva's voice was shrill. "Linnet, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you haven't been cheating on this wonderful man." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. What could I say? The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. "But wait," Carter continued. "There's more. Let's hear from the witnesses." The bridesmaid statements appeared on screen. Sasha, Harper, and Jolene's observations about my behavior, their suspicions about my relationship with Theo, their accounts of that night. "Even your closest friends knew something was wrong," Carter said. "Everyone could see it except me." Serena was sobbing now. "How could you do this to him? How could you do this to our family?" I never meant for anyone to get hurt, I said weakly. Never meant. David stood up, his face red with anger. You've been carrying on an affair for months. You brought your lover to your bachelorette party. You kissed him in a hotel hallway 3 weeks before your wedding. What exactly did you think was going to happen? It wasn't an affair. It was just flirtation, just what? Carter's composure finally cracked. Just emotional cheating, followed by physical cheating. Just months of lies and deception. Just making a fool out of me in front of everyone we know. The room fell silent except for Serena's quiet crying. Everyone was staring at me, waiting for an explanation that didn't exist. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry. Sorry? Eva's voice was ice cold. You're sorry? Do you have any idea what you've done? The deposits we've paid, the invitations we've sent, the embarrassment to both families? The wedding is cancelled, Carter announced. Obviously. Good, David said firmly. You deserve better than this, son. What about the money? Eva demanded. We've spent $8,000 on this wedding. The dress, the flowers, the catering deposit. That's your concern right now? Serena looked at my mother with disgust. Your daughter just destroyed my son's heart, and you're worried about money. Practical matters have to be addressed. Eva shot back. Someone has to pay for this disaster. Carter reached into a briefcase I hadn't noticed and pulled out a thick binder. Since we're discussing practical matters, let's review the financial breakdown. He opened the binder to reveal detailed spreadsheets, receipts, and payment records. Total wedding expenses to date, $24,000. My contribution, $21,600. Linnet's family contribution, $8,000. Her personal contribution, $400. The numbers hung in the air like an accusation. I'll be filing for full reimbursement of my contributions, Carter continued. I'll also be disputing all vendor charges under the morality clauses in our contracts. Morality clauses? I asked. Standard language that voids contracts in cases of fraud or deception, which this clearly is. My father finally spoke, his voice hollow. We'll pay back what we owe you, son. It's the least we can do. Gareth, Eva protested, that's our retirement money. Our daughter cheated on her fiancé, he snapped. We're lucky he's not suing us for emotional distress. Actually, Carter said quietly, I haven't decided about that yet. The threat hung in the air. I looked around the room at the wreckage of two families, the shattered dreams, the broken trust. And all of it was my fault. I think, Serena said, standing up and wiping her eyes, that Linnet should leave now. Serena, please, I started. No. Her voice was firm. You've done enough damage. I don't want to look at you anymore. Carter closed his laptop and began packing up his equipment. The wedding is cancelled. I'll handle notifying the vendors and the venue. I suggest you figure out how to tell your guests. Carter, wait. Can't we talk about this privately? Maybe we can work through... Work through what? He turned to face me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Complete disgust. You cheated on me, Linnet. You lied to me for months. You made me look like an idiot in front of both our families. There's nothing to work through. But I love you. No, you don't. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. He walked toward the front door, then turned back one final time. Oh, and Linnet, you might want to call Theo. I sent him copies of all this evidence an hour ago. I'm curious to see how he handles it. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot. I was left standing in the living room with 4 people who looked at me like I was a stranger. My mother was furious about the money. My father was ashamed and heartbroken. Carter's parents were disgusted and hurt. I should go, I said quietly. Yes, Eva said coldly. You should. And tomorrow you can start figuring out how to clean up this mess. I drove home in a daze, my phone buzzing constantly with calls and texts I was too afraid to answer. By the time I reached my apartment, I had 17 missed calls from Theo, 12 from various bridesmaids, and 1 from my supervisor at the hospital. Word was already spreading. As I sat in my living room, Carter's living room really, since he paid most of the rent, I realized that the public humiliation was just beginning. Carter hadn't just ended our relationship, he'd systematically destroyed my reputation with surgical precision. And he was far from finished. Thursday morning brought a new level of hell. I woke up to 43 missed calls, 87 text messages, and a voicemail box that was completely full. The story of my public humiliation had spread through our social circles like wildfire. The first call I returned was to Theo, who had left increasingly panicked voicemails throughout the night. "Linnet, thank God," he said when he picked up. "This is a disaster. Carter sent me everything. The photos, the emails, the witness statements. My phone hasn't stopped ringing." "What are people saying?" "What do you think they're saying? That I'm a homewrecker who seduced a client. I've already lost 2 bookings this morning. The venue owner wants to meet with me this afternoon, and it doesn't sound friendly. I'm sorry, Theo. I never wanted this to happen." "You never wanted this to happen?" His voice rose. "You invited me to your bachelorette party. You followed me into that hallway. You kissed me back." "I know, but nothing. I'm done with this situation. If anyone asks, I'm going to tell them you came on to me and I made a mistake. One mistake, not months of an affair." "That's not what happened." "It's what happened from my perspective. I suggest you figure out your own version of events, because Carter's version is spreading everywhere." He hung up on me. My phone immediately rang again. This time it was Harper, one of my bridesmaids. "Linnet, what the hell is going on? I just got a call from Sasha saying the wedding is cancelled and you cheated on Carter." "It's complicated." "Complicated? I saw the photo, Lynn. Carter sent it to all the groomsmen with a message saying the wedding is off due to irreconcilable betrayal. The whole wedding party knows." My stomach dropped. "He sent it to everyone?" "Everyone. Groomsmen, bridesmaids, both sets of parents, probably more. He included some kind of evidence packet with emails and hotel records. This isn't just gossip, Linnet. This is documented proof." "What are people saying?" "What do you think? That you're an idiot who threw away a great guy for some sleazy wedding planner. Jolene is furious because she already bought her bridesmaid dress. Sasha is embarrassed because she vouched for you when people said you were flirting with Theo. And you? What do you think?" There was a long pause. "I think you made the biggest mistake of your life. And I think Carter is handling it exactly the right way." She hung up too. I called in sick to work, knowing I couldn't face my colleagues' questions and stares. But around noon, my supervisor called. "Linnet, I hate to bother you when you're not feeling well, but we've had some inquiries about your personal situation." "Inquiries?" "Several staff members received information about your cancelled wedding. There are questions about whether this affects your position here." "My job? I hadn't even thought about how this might impact my job." "I don't understand. My personal life has nothing to do with my work performance." Normally I'd agree, but when personal matters become public knowledge and reflect poorly on the hospital's reputation, we have to consider our options. "Are you firing me?" "Not at this time, but I strongly suggest you take some personal leave while this situation resolves itself. Let things cool down." Another door closing. Another consequence I hadn't anticipated. That afternoon, I forced myself to start making the calls I'd been dreading. 237 wedding guests needed to be notified that the celebration was cancelled. The first call was to my Aunt Margaret, my mother's sister. "Oh, honey," she said when I explained the situation in the vaguest possible terms. "What happened? Your mother just said there were irreconcilable differences. We just realized we weren't right for each other. 3 weeks before the wedding, after all that planning and expense. Sometimes these things happen. Well, I suppose it's better to realize it now than after you're married. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, just disappointed." "Of course." "Well, let me know if there's anything I can do." She was kind and understanding, which made me feel even worse. The next few calls went similarly: confusion, sympathy, offers of support. But I knew it was only a matter of time before the real story spread. That time came sooner than expected. Around 4 p.m., my phone rang. It was my cousin Jessica, Margaret's daughter. "Linnet, I just saw something on Facebook that I think you should know about." My blood ran cold. "What kind of something?" Carter posted in the wedding event page. He thanked everyone for their excitement about the celebration, but announced that it's cancelled due to recent discoveries about the bride's character and fidelity. He posted publicly. It gets worse. He attached a redacted version of that photo. Face is blurred out, but the timestamp and location are clear. He wrote, "The evidence speaks for itself. Thank you for your understanding during this difficult time." I hung up and immediately went to Facebook. The wedding event page, which had been full of excited comments and well wishes just days ago, was now a disaster zone. Carter's post had 87 comments and counting. "Oh my God, I can't believe she cheated. Poor Carter, he deserves so much better. I always thought something was off about her." The wedding planner? Really? How cliché. Good for Carter for exposing her before the wedding. Each comment was like a knife to my chest. These were people I'd known for years, friends and family members who were now discussing my private shame in a public forum. But Carter wasn't done. Over the next few hours, he systematically dismantled my life with the same methodical precision he'd used in his parents' living room. First, he cancelled the wedding venue. The owner, who had worked with Theo on multiple events, was apparently furious about the situation and invoked the morality clause in our contract. No refund, and our names would be blacklisted from their preferred vendor network. Then he disputed the catering charges, the florist, the photographer, and the DJ. Each vendor received copies of the evidence packet, along with legal documentation of the fraud and deception that voided their contracts. By evening, my phone was ringing with calls from angry vendors demanding explanations and threatening legal action. The photographer was particularly upset. "I've already done your engagement shoot and put hours into planning your wedding day coverage. Now I find out the whole thing was a sham. I'm keeping your deposit and billing you for my time." The florist was more sympathetic but equally firm. "I'm sorry this happened to you, dear, but I can't absorb the cost of flowers that were ordered under false pretenses. The contract clearly states that deposits are non-refundable in cases of fraud." By the time the calls stopped coming, I was looking at over $15,000 in unrecoverable costs, money I didn't have, for a wedding that would never happen, because of choices I'd made. But the worst call came at 9 p.m. It was my mother. "Linnet, your father and I have been talking." "About what?" "About your living situation, about the money you owe Carter and the vendors, about the embarrassment you've brought on this family." "Mum, I know you're disappointed." "Disappointed?" Her voice was sharp. "Disappointed doesn't begin to cover it. Do you know what I've been doing all day? Fielding calls from relatives, friends, neighbours, all asking what happened to your wedding. Do you know how humiliating it is to explain that my daughter is a cheater? I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't pay the bills, Linnet. Your father and I were planning to help you with a down payment on a house after the wedding. That money is now going to pay back Carter and clean up your mess." "I understand." "Do you? Because I don't think you understand anything. You threw away a good man, a stable future, and a loving family for what? A few thrills with some sleazy wedding planner? It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Explain it to me, because I genuinely don't understand how my daughter could be so stupid and selfish." I couldn't explain it because I didn't understand it myself. Looking back, the whole thing seemed insane. Why had I risked everything for someone who was now throwing me under the bus to save his own reputation? "We can't co-sign your apartment lease renewal," my mother continued. "We can't help with your living expenses. We need every penny to pay back the money you cost us. Where am I supposed to live? That's something you should have thought about before you decided to cheat on your fiancé." After she hung up, I sat in the apartment that would soon no longer be mine, surrounded by wedding presents, that would have to be returned, looking at a future that had been completely destroyed in less than 48 hours. My phone buzzed with a text from Mads. "I heard about the Facebook post. Are you okay?" I almost laughed. Was I okay? I'd lost my fiancé, my home, my financial security, my reputation, and the respect of my family and friends. I was facing thousands of dollars in debt, possible unemployment, and social exile. But somehow, the thing that hurt most was that the person who had exposed my secret was asking if I was okay. "I'm fine," I texted back. "Thanks for asking." "I'm sorry it happened this way. I really hoped you would tell him yourself." It wouldn't have mattered. The result would have been the same. Maybe, but at least you would have maintained some dignity. Dignity. I almost laughed again. That was something I'd lost the moment I followed Theo into that hotel hallway. Everything that happened afterward was just the inevitable consequence of that choice. As I got ready for bed in the apartment I could no longer afford, I realized that Carter's revenge was far from over. He'd systematically destroyed my engagement, my finances, and my reputation. But knowing him, knowing his methodical nature and his expertise in digital investigation, I suspected the worst was yet to come. I was right. Friday morning brought the legal summons I'd been dreading. A process server arrived at my door at 8 a.m. sharp, handing me an official packet that would seal my fate. "Linnet Virelle?" "Yes. You're being served. Mediation hearing scheduled for Monday, March 24th, 9 a.m. at the county courthouse. Failure to appear may result in default judgment." My hand shook as I opened the packet. Inside was a civil complaint seeking reimbursement of all wedding-related expenses, plus damages for fraud, emotional distress, and breach of contract. The total amount, 31,147 bedhalms. But the real shock was the evidence packet attached. Carter hadn't just compiled our case, he'd built a prosecution file that would make a federal investigator proud. The photo metadata report was 12 pages long, detailing not just the timestamp and location, but the camera settings, the lighting analysis, and technical proof that the image was completely unaltered. A digital forensics expert had signed off on every detail. The hotel Wi-Fi logs were cross-referenced with cell tower data, creating a minute-by-minute timeline of my movements that night. The report showed that my phone had connected to the hotel network at 11:23 p.m. and remained connected until 5:15 a.m., with location data placing me on the 8th floor during the exact time frame of the photograph. Theo's rideshare records were equally damning. Not only did they show his arrival and departure times, but GPS tracking had recorded his route through the hotel, including a 23-minute stop on the 8th floor between 3:41 and 4:04 a.m. But the most devastating evidence was what Carter had recovered from our deleted messages. Using forensic software, he'd reconstructed months of flirtatious exchanges that I thought were gone forever. Every deleted text, every cleared email, every attempt to cover my tracks had been methodically restored and documented. The witness statements from my bridesmaids were notarized and detailed. Mads had provided a complete account of the bachelorette party, including my obvious excitement when Theo arrived and my suspicious behavior afterward. Sasha, Harper, and Jolene had each confirmed months of observations about my inappropriate relationship with the wedding planner. But the final blow was Theo's statement. Faced with the collapse of his business and potential lawsuits from other clients, he'd decided to save himself by throwing me completely under the bus. His sworn affidavit painted me as a manipulative client who had pursued him relentlessly, despite his professional objections. According to Theo's version of events, I had initiated all contact outside of wedding planning. I had sent the flirtatious emails. I had invited him to the bachelorette party against his better judgment. I had followed him into the hotel hallway and kissed him despite his attempts to maintain professional boundaries. The client became increasingly inappropriate in her communications. His statement read, She frequently complained about her fiancé and made suggestive comments about our working relationship. On the night of March 15th, she was intoxicated and aggressive in her advances. I should have left immediately, but I made the mistake of trying to handle the situation delicately to avoid embarrassing her in front of her friends. It was a complete fabrication, but it was also legally brilliant. By positioning himself as the reluctant victim of my advances, Theo had protected himself from liability while making me look even worse. The statement concluded, "I deeply regret my poor judgment in this matter. I should have terminated our professional relationship the moment the client's behavior became inappropriate. I take full responsibility for not maintaining proper boundaries, but I want to be clear that I was not the instigator of this situation." Reading his lies made me furious, but I also had to admire the strategy. Theo had managed to admit wrongdoing while shifting all blame to me. He'd positioned himself as a naive professional who'd been seduced by a manipulative client. And the worst part? It might actually work. I spent the weekend trying to find legal representation, but every attorney I contacted wanted a retainer I couldn't afford. The few who offered free consultations all gave me the same advice: settle quickly and quietly, because I had no chance of winning in court. "The evidence is overwhelming," one lawyer told me bluntly. "Photo metadata, digital forensics, multiple witnesses, documentary evidence of an ongoing affair. Your best bet is to negotiate a payment plan and hope he doesn't pursue the emotional distress damages." But Theo is lying about what happened. He was just as involved as I was. "Can you prove that? Do you have evidence that contradicts his statement?" I didn't. I'd deleted everything, thinking I was protecting myself. Instead, I'd destroyed my own defense while Carter had methodically preserved every piece of evidence against me. Monday morning arrived like an execution date. I dressed in my most conservative outfit and drove to the courthouse, knowing I was about to face the complete destruction of my financial future. The mediation room was sterile and intimidating. Carter sat at one table with his attorney, a sharp-looking woman in an expensive suit. I sat alone at the opposing table, having decided I couldn't afford legal representation. The mediator, a grey-haired man who'd probably seen every kind of domestic dispute, reviewed the case file with obvious distaste. "This is comprehensive," he said, flipping through Carter's evidence packet. "Ms. Virelle, do you dispute any of these facts?" "Some of them are taken out of context," I said weakly. "Which facts, specifically?" I looked at the photo on the table in front of him, the hotel logs, the witness statements. What could I dispute? That I'd kissed Theo, that I'd been flirting with him for months, that I'd lied to Carter repeatedly. The emotional context is more complicated than it appears." "I see. And do you have evidence to support your version of events?" "No, but—" "Then let's proceed with the settlement discussion." Carter's attorney opened a folder and began presenting their demands with clinical precision. Full reimbursement of Carter's wedding expenses, $21,600. Vendor penalties and cancellation fees, $7,200. Legal fees, $3,047. Total, $31,847. Additionally, she continued, my client is prepared to file criminal charges for fraud if this matter isn't resolved today. Criminal charges? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You obtained money and services under false pretenses, knowing you were engaged in behavior that would void the contracts. That's textbook fraud. The mediator nodded grimly. Ms. Virelle, I strongly advise you to consider this settlement offer carefully. The evidence against you is substantial, and the criminal exposure is real. I looked across the table at Carter, hoping to see some trace of the man who had once loved me. But his expression was cold and businesslike, like I was just another problem to be solved. I don't have that kind of money, I said. We're prepared to accept a payment plan, Carter's attorney replied. $500 per month for 64 months, with a personal guarantee secured by wage garnishment. 64 months. More than 5 years of payments for one night of stupidity. What if I can't make the payments? Then the full amount becomes immediately due, and we pursue criminal charges. I was trapped. I could sign the agreement and spend the next 5 years paying for my mistake, or I could refuse and face potential jail time. I need to think about this. I'm afraid not, the mediator said. This is a one-time offer. If you leave this room without settling, Mr. Rowe's attorney will file criminal charges this afternoon. I looked at Carter one more time. Is this really what you want? To destroy me completely? For the first time, his composure cracked slightly. You destroyed yourself, Linnet. I'm just making sure there are consequences. I loved you. No, you didn't. If you had loved me, none of this would have happened. He was right, and we both knew it. I signed the settlement agreement with shaking hands, agreeing to pay $31,147 over 64 months, secured by wage garnishment and a personal guarantee. The mediator witnessed my signature and declared the matter resolved. As we left the courthouse, Carter's attorney handed me one final document, the annulment decree. The marriage license has been voided, she explained. The court record will show that the engagement was terminated due to fraud and concealment discovered through photographic evidence. It's public record. All court filings are public record. Anyone can access the case file, including the evidence exhibits. I realized with horror that the photo, the emails, the witness statements, everything would be permanently available to anyone who wanted to see it. My humiliation wasn't just complete, it was archived forever. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with notifications. Someone had posted about the court hearing on social media, and the story was spreading again. By the time I got home, a Nardos wedding planner gate was trending locally, with people sharing screenshots of the court documents and speculating about the details. That evening, I sat in my apartment, which I'd have to vacate by the end of the month, and tried to process what my life had become. I was unemployed, homeless, financially ruined, and socially destroyed. My family had disowned me. My friends had abandoned me. My reputation was permanently destroyed, all because of one kiss in a hotel hallway. But, as I scrolled through the social media posts about my downfall, I realized something that made it even worse. People weren't just gossiping about my mistake. They were celebrating Carter's revenge. This is how you handle a cheating fiancé, one post read. No violence, no drama, just cold, hard evidence and legal consequences. Carter Rowe is a legend, another said. He destroyed her completely without breaking any laws. She got exactly what she deserved, a third added. Play with fire, get burned. Carter had become a folk hero for scorned partners everywhere. His methodical, legal destruction of my life was being held up as the perfect example of civilized revenge. He'd turned my humiliation into his triumph, my downfall into his vindication. And the most bitter irony, he was right to do it. I had betrayed him, lied to him, and humiliated him. I had risked everything for a few moments of excitement with a man who'd thrown me under the bus the moment things got complicated. I had made my choices, and now I was living with the consequences. As I packed my belongings into boxes that would go into storage until I could afford a new place, my phone rang one last time. It was Theo. Linnet, I heard about the settlement. What do you want? I wanted you to know that I'm sorry it ended this way. Are you? Because your statement to Carter's lawyer made it sound like this was all my fault. I had to protect my business. You understand that, right? I understand that you're a coward who threw me under the bus to save yourself. That's not fair. We both made mistakes. The difference is, I'm paying for mine. You're walking away free and clear. I lost 6 clients and my reputation in the industry. I'm hardly walking away free. But you're walking away. I'm spending the next 5 years paying for one night that you enjoyed just as much as I did. Linnet. I hung up on him. 3 days later, I moved out of the apartment I'd shared with Carter and into a studio across town that I could barely afford. My new neighbors were college students and recovering addicts, a far cry from the suburban life I'd been planning. As I unpacked my meager belongings, I found the engagement ring Carter had given me 2 years earlier. I'd forgotten to return it during all the chaos. For a moment I considered keeping it, a small token of the life I'd thrown away. But then I realized that would be just another selfish choice in a long line of selfish choices. I mailed the ring back to Carter with a simple note. "I'm sorry for everything." He never responded. 6 months later, I was working as a receptionist at a dental office, making barely enough to cover my rent and settlement payments. I'd lost 20 pounds from stress and couldn't afford to replace my work wardrobe, so I wore the same 3 outfits in rotation. One day, while scrolling through social media during my lunch break, I saw an announcement that made my heart stop. Carter was engaged. Her name was Rebecca, and she was everything I wasn't. A kindergarten teacher with a genuine smile and kind eyes. Their engagement photos showed them hiking together, laughing together, looking at each other with the kind of love I'd thrown away. The comments on the announcement were overwhelmingly positive. "So happy you found someone who deserves you." "Rebecca is lucky to have such a good man." "After what you went through with your ex, you deserve all the happiness in the world." I closed the app and went back to work, knowing that Carter had not only survived my betrayal, he'd thrived because of it. My destruction had become the foundation of his new happiness. That night, I made my monthly payment of $500 to Carter's attorney, just as I would for the next 4.5 years. Each payment was a reminder of the choice I'd made in that hotel hallway, the moment I'd traded everything real for something that was ultimately nothing at all. As I sealed the envelope and prepared to mail it, I realized that Carter's revenge was perfect, not because it was cruel, but because it was just. He'd given me exactly what I'd earned, the consequences of my choices, served with methodical precision and legal finality. I'd destroyed my own life. He'd simply made sure I couldn't escape the wreckage. And in the end, that was exactly